What is going on, guys? Roma 3, Frosinone 0, or it should be the other way around. Roma, we're technically the away team today, but what you heard were Giallorossi fans out on the nines, completely filling up this stadium. Why? Because Frosinone actually they do play in the Lazio region, which is where Rome's from. So they had a lot of support. That's what you heard today. Oddly enough, last night I was at a family member's house who has like every TV station known to man. What do I find? Fiorentina Roma Femminile. And guess who was there? Like 5 Roma fans hitting drums, screaming, the typical Roma chants. And today we get that same type of atmosphere times a million in Frosinone. But I want to ask you something off the bat. Did Roma deserve to win this match? You can't deserve if you don't score goals, right? That of course makes the most sense here. But did Frosinone merit something more? Because I think that deserve is a strong word. But when you look at the XG from today, I'm gonna go. I just thought of this. Roma Frosinone. I'm gonna type this in. I'm gonna say they're probably at 2, and Roma was probably around 2 as well. Let's see what they got for me. Oh yeah, I'll share this. Here we go. Let's take a look at this together. By the way, guys, welcome. I'm Wayne Gerard. We're gonna be breaking this down. Frosinone Roma, 25th round of the Serie A season, one where the Giallorossi move further up the table and rejoin, in my opinion, rejoin the chase for fourth, even though Atalanta has the pedal to the metal, but they have a very difficult schedule coming up. All right. Yeah, I'm very close here. Roma's XG 1.85, Frosinone 1.63. So they're closer to a goal and a half there, where Roma are closer to 2 on average. But you do see 7 shots on target, and that's remarkable, I think, from a team who are, where were they heading into this? Frosinone are now sitting in, I'm going to guess, 16th. Yeah, 15th place with 23 points, just above Empoli and just above Sassuolo, who are increasingly close to the drop zone here. If we look at the league table, Sassuolo 20 points, tied with Verona. I can't believe that the Nero Verdi are down this low in the Serie A season. I mean, they've had so many chances to reinvest and get new players, and of course they lose important players, but Pinamonti, he should be developing perhaps a touch more than he did. He missed 2 penalty kicks, or I should say that Carnesecchi saved them against him. Cagliari surprised there as well with Ranieri. I guess a decent little squad with Salernitana, who to me have a squad which should be more around like 15th place. They've kept, I guess they sold Mazzocchi right to Napoli, but they have Manolas now. They have Boateng. Interesting. They did sell Dia, Boulaye Dia. Where did he go? He went somewhere important, didn't he? No, I'm sorry. Boulaye Dia reported late to training camp and then came back at like the last second. So I'm surprised to see him still with Salernitana. But I mean, are they worse off than Udinese, than Lecce, than Genoa? I'm not so sure. But Monza are playing Milan right now. But back to this game, guys. Throw some comments in there. I want to see what your thoughts are into this. Let's take a look at this starting lineup here as well. I've got you guys looking at, what is this? These fixtures here. But let's go back to this lineup and look at this starting here. And Azmoun gets the surprise start in his return from Iran from the Asian Cup. Baldanzi also gets the start in place of Dybala. I like this formation on paper. Did it work For me today, not in my opinion. I thought the lines were quite disconnected. Roma were so susceptible to the counterattack. Many times they faced shots rather, that should have been goals, that would have been goals against better teams. Um, why is Angelino coming in as that name? I guess that's his full name. And okay, yeah, that's his full name, Esmores Tasende. I didn't know his real name was Jose Angel, nickname Angelino. Anyway, SES starts out on the left and Baldanzi on the right. Uh, Christensen on the right back row with next to Mancini, who pulled really far out right in this game. Hujsen next to him, who opens up this game, opens up the match. Cristante and Paredes playing a true double pivot. What I found really interesting about their positioning today, guys, is oftentimes when Paredes would drop, uh, or let's say Cristante dropped into like a center back position within that area, Paredes would play right in front of him, and they would kind of like linchpin off one another. I thought they worked really well today. Cristante got a more athletic match, I think, than he's used to. He had to chase down guys like Mazzitelli and Valeri a bit more than I think he presumed, and Derossi presumed going into this match. But Lukaku, Azmoun, and Baldanzi were, I guess, really the true trident for most of this match. Yeah, on paper, El Shaarawy's there, but I think it was these three for sure. But I want to take a look at the comments before we go further. I also want to invite my buddy Patrick if he could make it. I'm going to send him a little what do you call it, invite here. Okay, cool. Um, what do we got coming in, guys? Good to see. By the way, I want to throw this out there immediately. Miles Villard, my man of the match. And Carl Samili, he agrees there. SC Gabi. This is Gabi. Marco, it's nice to have you back, man. I guess I owe you an apology. I guess we should all say sorry to Marco and that you were right. It was time for something to change. Probably something should have changed last season, last summer, but what do that's counter history at this point, right? The fact of the matter is Roma has a new boss, one who's obviously willing to try things. He's played the 4-3-3 his first three matches, and today we see a 4-2-3-1 in attack collapses into a 4-4-2, which is pretty modern. Most managers are taking or adopting that tactic in defense right now. And the 4-2-3-1 is a formation all Roma fans, long-term Roma fans know, because it was Spalletti who started off with it here. He's kind of the inventor of that formation. AD says, today we celebrate Svilar making Rui the number 2. Well, versus Milan, we said that match is 90 minutes, and today is the same. Roma fixed the problem in the second half. Great management from Derossi, and Svilar saved us. Yes, it's a really good analysis there by AD, who also adds he loves how Derossi rotates the team, didn't panic, kept Dybala on the bench, took off Lukaku when he wasn't working. When there were good guys, when we're good, he kept guys who usually play on the bench, and so others can get minutes. And that's definitely a sign of a great tactician, one who says, no, we're not just going to resort to our MO of getting Dybala in to come in and change the game. Says we can't do that. We have to start to be able to play with other players as well and solve that dependency, because for the past 2.5 years, one of Roma's biggest issues has been being one-dimensional. Dybala is not there, then the excuses come out. Oh, they don't know how to play. Blah, blah, blah. They don't know. There's no creativity without him. Well, today, Roma showed that they could. Of course, now, yeah, you have Baldanzi, who is a player that Mourinho really could have used. So let's be fair in our judgment there as well. Matt says, Mamma Mia, what a disjointed first half. Yes, where Roma could have been down 2. Dashi's back. And you know who's back too? Chris Smalling. Very good to see. I was proud of that. Um, Bro, you don't like Cristante? I don't know, man. Cristante's he's decent. Dude, he does a role. He's like one of the most active players in Serie A history at this point with the amount of minutes played in consecutive. Marco says he's a fraud. He knows he has nothing to do. Oh, man. Come on, Marco. I thought they did fine. I thought actually Cristante um, put in a really good effort today. I thought he was athletic. He covered well. He passed okay. Is he Andrea Pirlo? Of course not, but come on, you gotta come over on Cristante with me. By the way, speaking he does a roll of come on, man. Cristante is not that bad. He's decent. You gotta say he's decent with me. Come on. But anyway, speaking of this guy, I did really do like Paredes. I like the way he's been used under De Rossi. I really like how everything goes. Yeah, decent. Yeah. You know what though? You need those guys sometimes. You need those guys who have a lot of leg in them, who have a lot of energy, who are dependable. Because I will quote myself in saying, when you have guys who don't have the physicality, but they have the talent, but they can only show up 70, 65% of the time, I'd rather go with guys who are only three-fourths as talented, but play 95 to 99% of the time. Because then at least you can work on your tactics, your module, you can build something. You cannot build when you have sporadic players. That's no bueno for me. Anyway, Paredes, back to Paredes, who I think has been great. I think he's been a real development under De Rossi. He's utilized much better, in my opinion, than what we saw under Mourinho. Now, I'm not faulting the manager. I think that Paredes has made some big mistakes passing wise, some lapses of concentration since he's been in Rome. But I do think in the past 4 games, he's looked really good. He likes the play to go through him. He's an offensive minded defensive midfielder first, if that makes any sense. But Dashi likes Cristante over Paredes. Hujsen, other than the goal, was poor, Carl says. I thought the defense as a whole was kind of like shaky. And the one thing I didn't like today is that when Roma boosted forward with like 4 or 5 guys, El Shaarawy Baldanzi, Azmoun Lukaku, and let's say Cristante, or Pellegrini rather, once those 5 or 6 players went forward, there was a big gap between the defense and the midfield to the point where the center backs became isolated. That's not, I don't want to say it's not fair to them, but it's really counterintuitive to what they've practiced for years now, in that those guys are used to getting covered in a low block. Instead, this was no block. It was super high press. You get bypassed, then you've got no plan B. And when you don't have a plan B, sometimes people well, I don't want to make a double word here, because plan B also means something else. We're not going to go there. Anyway, AD says he thinks De Rossi should be given a chance next season. Bond's great with the players, gives them confidence. His game management gets better and better. With preseason, he can only be greater. I want to add something onto AD here. Did you notice today, guys, how the players celebrated together, particularly after Azmoun scores? And also, of course, when Dean scores, all the players, they gather together. It's not just like a yeah, everyone run, or one person runs to the Curva Sud. Instead, uh, I feel like a familial type of way about them, like an aura that's going on right now. It does feel like De Rossi has brought these players closer together. Haval is in here. What's up, man? He says the energy levels seemed high this evening. Yeah, even from Frosinone. Was the mantra that this team can't play 2 games a week just wrong? Mm, oh, that's a really good question. I should have read this before I went and answered it. Um, I think that there is a bit of a buzz about them, that when you have a new manager and one who unites the players, there is a new energy. And oftentimes what you'll see is that levels out, and then the team starts to play like their true selves again. They call it a dead cat bounce. So in stocks, when you have a dead cat bounce, that means a stock fell rapidly, and then for 2 days it goes back up, but eventually it levels off to what its true self is. Some people think that's what happened with Ole when he took over from Mourinho at Manchester United. I think there's some truth to that too. But to your question, no, I think that it is difficult to play 2 games a week, because it's one thing if you go on a break and then you play 2 games a week for, let's say, 20 days in a row. But when it's week after week with European play, and then it's Coppa Italia, and then it's a midweek Serie A match, and then the players return from international break. I think that's when you have real problems. So I do think that the Roma squad did have burnout for sure, and it's legitimate. And now, um, after that Feyenoord match, that's why Dybala got rested. That's why Mancini probably looked a bit rusty today. Angelino, not his great game. Who else got a start was Christensen, right? He's not the usual starter there. Paredes, probably a touch slower than usual. Cristante, a touch slower. Even though he had a back issue that's been going on. Bove was the starter. Baldanzi got some good minutes. El Shaarawy, Lukaku, a touch behind. So I think you saw it today. I just think because of the level that Frosinone offers, it wasn't as apparent, the fatigue. Matt says, was Baldanzi used much differently at Empoli? He seemed to be a lot more time on the training grounds. Uh, he seems to need a lot more time. Baldanzi was really like the epicenter of Empoli's play. He was always involved in the buildup. He always got touches. I think what killed Baldanzi today was the fact that his wingers were not often open, so he couldn't switch the point of attack. There's one in particular. I'm gonna try and go back here. Yeah, it's in like the 14th minute. Um, let me run through this with you because I have it pulled up on my personal highlights here. Paredes plays Baldanzi, who cuts through the center of the pitch from right to left. Then he shimmies. But instead of playing an advancing ball, what Baldanzi has to do is play Paredes back. Why? Because he does not have El Shaarawy on the counter flank. Therefore, he can't play that cutting through ball the way that he did for Empoli. Okay, maybe Empoli wasn't that attacking, but I think you understand the point I'm trying to make. Then Baldanzi goes on a run, he gets it back, and he plays in Lukaku. The defender slips, but then Lukaku actually gets it and gets a goal scoring opportunity, gets a shot on goal. That one's saved. So that to me, if you go back to the 14th minute, and I'll post the highlights here for you if anyone's in the comments. By the way, guys, if you want to join our WhatsApp group, I'll put that in here as well. But if you want to run through these highlights too, just check that out on YouTube later. And like I said, you have the WhatsApp group too. But he's definitely in the past used to being the main guy, kind of like a big fish in a small pond, or at least the most talented guy on the pitch. But now it's a little bit more spread out. I do think, like Marco points out here, he's better as an attacking mid, more so than like a forward or a winger. When he's out on the wing, he can do like some nice dribbles. He can make some decent plays, but really, you want a player this smart, like Dybala, from a central position so they can spray the pitch, so they can look at all the passing lanes and be able to go pop, 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 rather than being cornered into this one little angle where they can only make one, two, maybe three different types of passes at the most. So I think that's something which will develop. I think Baldanzi's role, as Dybala's has under De Rossi, will take different shapes and forms. And he just joined the team, so he'll be growing. And he's very young. He's only 20 years old. And I'll tell you from personal experience, from 20 to 25, players, they grow a lot. They become smarter. They know how to handle themselves more. They know how to approach matches better. So that's one thing just to keep your eye on with Baldanzi. So Marco and I think are echoing the same type of statement there. Lukaku, I think, like we were mentioning before from Feyenoord, has a little bit of a burnout. That's what you were seeing today. But let's take a look back at these stats here, guys. Off the bench, Pellegrini comes on in the second half. Llorente, Selic, Award, and Chris Smalling. So it was good to see. I'm glad that Awar's back, because he's got a little bit of that creativity from the attacking mid role. I'd like to see him under De Rossi too. Under Mourinho, it wasn't really working out that well. But anyway, the one thing I want to bring up too here, guys, is that for this starting formation, it wasn't the typical three-man midfield, because it was Azmoun instead who plugged back. And perhaps this is where a lot of those counterattacks derive from, is not having the third midfielder to provide that balance. Yeah, I think against a better team, I don't really think that this setup works. I think De Rossi has to go back to what we saw in the last Serie A match against Inter. where I thought Roma was surely much better than the scoreline suggested and a lot more balanced. So yeah, Pellegrini is part of that midfield because I think he's done much better under De Rossi as well. Let's see what else is going on. Diogo's in here. What's up, my friend? By the way, guys, you know what? Hit subscribe, like, send this on Reddit, all the calcio and the forums and stuff like that. Tag me on Instagram. By the way, check this out. Nice little coaster. Found this. My cousin got me it. Nice, right? Anyway, let's take a look at what else is going on in Serie A. I have good news and I have bad news. By the way, Sole, this is a special player here, number 18 for Frosinone on loan from Juventus Next Gen. He's part of that very special group with Yildiz, who's going to be a fantastic striker. So Juventus make a lot of those great moves with their B team, aka Juve Next Gen. Mar del Plata, where's that? Guys, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here. I'm just not sure where this is. Mar del Plata. Wow. All the way out there. Anyway, let's go back to the standings today. Actually, let's take a look at the matches, rather. So Monza versus Milan, it's goalless in the 30th minute here. Empoli at home draws against Fiorentina. That's a really good result for Empoli, I would say, in their so-called Tuscan derby, as I would like to call it. Just getting word from Patrick that he's ready. Yeah, Patrick, you can just join the oh, there you are. Okay, we're gonna get him in. First time Patrick makes his debut. Let's see how we do this. Let me get the double screen here. Pat, what's going on? Are you on mute or am I on mute? Oh, you got to unmute. There we go.
Yeah, I'm on mute. Hi, how are you? I'm live. Can you hear everything okay? Because I was setting up the platform, the stream.
It's perfect.
Platform. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It's long time no speak. How do you rate this game, Patrick?
No, it was first off. Thanks for inviting me. Like I've said, I think you're doing a great job here in the channel, and obviously that shows with the amount of subscribers and the people that are watching right now, obviously. But thank you for inviting me, and I have two comments mainly about the game. First, I think you've said a lot of the things that we all think when we watched. We all thought that it wasn't an amazing Roman performance, but the goals were there, obviously. What I found interesting that serves us going forward here is that if you look at the players for both Roma and Frosinone, Hujsen and then Caio Jorge and the other two players, Barnechea, who came in later in the game for Frosinone and Sule, which I think you mentioned before, you're going to realize that every single one of them is from Juve Next Gen, right? And I think one of the issues that we have with Roma is that we are not getting the advantages of having a reserve team. And even though right now we're talking about the match itself and not the overall strategy of the club, I think it's very interesting that out of Serie A, I think it's only Atalanta and Juventus that has a reserve team. And you can see the benefits. If you can see the benefits in any of the games, I think today was one of those days where you saw all of these Juve players that were brought up from the lower teams and made it all the way to Juve Next Gen, and the impact that has on a team for them next year. And I think for us, given the budgetary constraints that Roma has, that's something we need to look into. I don't know what you thought about that. I just thought it was a great thing to point out.
Well, you look at even our strategy, loan players out, sell them, and at best you get a buyback. And today you have an example of that. You have two different teams, Roma and Juventus, doing things completely differently. And it's demonstrated both with Frosinone, because Roma had Mazzatelli, who looks like a decent center midfielder, and then there's Sule. One was completely sold, and the other is just on loan. So to me, it kind of just shows you, like, I understand it might be expensive. Fans will tell me, because I posted something about it on Twitter, like Roma should definitely have this B team because look at the long-term results. And I think when you have a player like Sule, I don't know, what is he, 19 years old? And our best midfielder for the last 10 years is now starting at Inter Milan, Fratesi. it's disheartening, and I think that's a little bit difficult to cope with. But that's can the Friedkins dig us out of that? What do you think?
Well, I don't think it's that expensive. I was looking at the numbers. I think for the information that's available, which I don't know if it's the best and most accurate information. I think it was 1.4 million that Juve had to pay to allow
That's it.
their reserve team to work. Obviously, the cost comes in having that extra team. It's for Atalanta they call it a sub 23 team, which it's the reserve team more or less. But it adds to the other youth division teams that the club has. But I think that the cost is really not prohibitive. I think most leagues, most top leagues now have reserves, and that helps. Instead of go ahead.
Well, that's probably cheaper than what they paid for Nice, because didn't they? I think like a year or two ago, they buy Nice, right? The Friedkins.
I don't remember, but I think if you get a team in another league that's not as great, it depends on the league, of course. But I think if you can have a team in Italy and the players that you bring in can learn Italian and get used to being in Italy and living in Italy and seeing how that works before they're, because you might find a player that doesn't want to stay in Italy. So it's more likely that if that player has played in the youth divisions and then made it to the reserve team and moved forward in the setup, he at least has an idea of what playing in Italy is, and you can probably have a better shot at having him stay. And also it increases the competition level, because from what I understand, the rules allow you to get promoted to Serie B. Even you can play in Serie B. You can make it to the top flight, because otherwise there will be two teams in one division. But what you can do is you can have a competitive reserve team in League B, right? So that would be for Roma. I think that's fantastic, and I think instead of us keeping our guys in Primavera and then loaning them out to teams God knows where, because we often send our youth players to clubs we've done it in the past in far places that they really get lost, and I think if we have them in Italy, that will help out. Also for us to monitor how they do, and I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean that's my hope, and I was just looking it up. It's Cannes. In I don't even know where Cannes, what they're doing, if they're in League Two, probably right now. Let's see what the standings are. If I could find them, Cannes, where are they? They might be in Ligue 1. They very well might be. Anyway, I want to give background though. So
Right,
Patrick and I,
we've left from the
we
game.
we
Let's
had a
get back to
podcast 10 years ago?
Yeah, more or less. I think you said 2012. I think that was the date that comes close. I don't know if that was the exact year, but it sounds close. And the times were different. Obviously, the technology has advanced to the point where we don't have to say the same things over and over, because we messed up recording and then we had to repeat the exact same words like four times.
We record
Go ahead.
3 times. It was so
Yeah.
frustrating.
Saying the same thing 4 times, like it was a script from a play or from a movie, and it wasn't as fluid here. But yeah, this is different, and the system is great. I mean, from a technical standpoint, to just be able to drop in like this, it's way easier than what we were doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's and I think there's really a lack of content for Roma fans that in that. But there's YouTube channels and there's that, but I think a podcast is also interesting. If someone gets a podcast firing in Spotify going, I don't know if it's going to have a good reception. I don't know if you've thought about it. But.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that we'll do is we'll take this audio from here and we'll throw it on a podcast. Like I'll strip the audio. That's the easiest thing. But like you said, yeah, there is a shortage. Roma doesn't have too many English speaking Roma fans. English speaking fans, I should say. But there is a serious need, and not just like, oh, Roma eyeing Mbappe on a free transfer and like the silly news. I think that's I know what you and I have always liked is kind of more like tactical and legitimate news, and not just news, but like really how do they play? What is like the nuts and bolts of it? I think that's always
right.
been
I don't think you do stats here. I mean, I know why. I mean, you don't go in that level of detail, but I think that takes a lot more time, and probably people have other things as well. But I think there's value in that type of content, in putting up stats and checking the numbers, because that helps you a lot. I think it's funny that today we had the exact same shots on target that we did against the last game, the Europa League game against Feyenoord, uh, and also the same amount of overall shots. I think so. It's interesting that against Frosinone, who's a weaker team, we're not way better, and they had 22 or 21 shots on target. I think overall shots, not shots on target, but 21. And I think that speaks well of Di Francesco, because if you look at the numbers, the team always generates chances. Again, against Milan, they had the game recently and they did a great job there. And I don't think they're going to get relegated, or they're going to be in that situation. I think Di Francesco he has good players. Of course, they're all players that belong to Juve, and their best players kind of belong to Juve. So they're going to have an issue there next season.
Look at the top four who has tied for top four most goals. It's Matthias Sule. I mean, right. 20 years old.
And if you look at the story, Juve got him pretty early. I think when he was 16 or 17 from Argentina. So that's the type of deals Roma should be doing, but we don't. We wait until the players are way too expensive or past their prime to try to get them on the team. And I think our new model going forward, if we're going to choose a model, should be focusing on younger players that can generate value for the club and eventually be sold off, or if not, Paredes, I'm not a big fan of. I know you. I was. I don't think the impact has been there this time around. He's gotten better the last few games, but
he's better.
I don't know. What do you think? You like Paredes?
I think he's doing increasingly better as this main guy for De Rossi's play. Like, I think that he is a defensive midfielder by trade, but he's offensive minded. And when he feels important and he feels like he is part of the play, he just excels at that. What he's not is a guy who's going to sit in front of your defense and just protect everybody and be that shield in a low block. That's not Paredes' game. So what I do see is very much the way that Argentina play, which is on the front foot. That is so much better for him. So I do like him. Yeah, as we were just looking at who leads the most in yellow card in that category, it's him with 11. That's not great, but to me, he's emerged, I think, as like a top 6 player quickly under De Rossi.
So what do you think of the fitness level? Because I think, and that's something that you could see today. I think that the fitness levels are not great, and I think at the fundamentals, the most important thing you can have is fitness and discipline for any team. Those two can help you punch above your weight. And I wanted to know your thoughts and the thoughts of everyone here about the physical state of the team, and if you guys think they're physically there and we can run the 90 minutes and we can press and do all the more physically demanding tasks that you have to take care in a game. What do you think?
I don't think they're used to it. I think that this team has been groomed in a way which is totally set on just counterattacking, but that's very different from pressing, because pressing takes a lot of endurance. Now, if you have counterattacks, you have to be like an Olympic sprinter to be a really good counterattack player. But when it comes to, I think, playing under De Rossi, you actually have to be fully fit. And I don't know if this group of players is anything like Mourinho's 2004 Chelsea, which had true athletes. So for me, I don't know if this group is tailor-made for De Rossi, but he can make them like that. He can condition them. But it's hard. Is it possible to condition players mid-season, late into the season, when you're one match into the second round or the first round of 32 in the Europa League? So what do you do now? Is this team going to burn out? I guess that's a fear right now.
So what do you think is De Rossi's? Do you think he would do better with Matic or Paredes? That's something Javal was saying. Paredes is no Matic. Which of the two do you think?
Matic is a Mourinho guy.
What?
Matic is a Mourinho guy, but I mean, I think Paredes is more suited to De Rossi, but that's hard to say. I don't think Matic makes those recovery runs that Cristante does today if he's used in a double pivot.
And who do you think it's our modern day Nainggolan? Out of the guys that we have, obviously.
Angelino. I don't know. There is none.
No, I don't.
There's no intermedio. Oh, Bove. It's definitely Bove. It's got to be Bove.
Right. So you think he can? You think he should have played today, or should he been in the bench, or?
I don't know because he started at
If,
Feyenoord, so I think it's
right, but
probably right.
you think Awar is the right call there as a sub in that moment of the game, or what sub would you have done if you were in that?
You're asking a good pressing question. You're probably right. I think if Bove was fit, he's
Yeah,
probably the
that's
better.
the idea, right? To put you on the spot here.
Yeah, this is why we need you, Patrick. We need people to call my bluff.
Right. I mean, someone besides Marco had to show how you were biased in favor of a certain manager here.
Yeah, exactly. Things that
Marco was
can't
pushed
show.
aside for being a heretic, and now the picture has changed.
Now
I don't
this
know.
channel's really going to grow. Now that I have to be accountable to the things that I
No more
say.
propaganda. No more propaganda for the Mourinho
Exactly.
fan club. Right? I think you were sponsored by the Mourinho fan club.
Yeah, the Mourinho fan club's far and gone at this point. I lost like 200 followers on Twitter. It was chaos. People were calling me a fraud, and I was like, "No, I defended this guy for 2.5 years. I'm not the fraud."
Yeah, every single stream actually, right?
Yeah, people came on the stream.
Even now, I think before I got on, I think you were saying that Mourinho was really a great guy, and he's a great manager. But the problem is he's stayed stuck on the past. I think you have to evolve and adapt and change, not just in football. In whatever you do, you have to find ways to spice things up and adapt to the environment. Because you can say, "Oh, I've won everything, and I have this tactical setup, and I'm not going to change because I've won everything." But the years pass, football changes. There are new managers, new ideas, and either you adapt or you die, which is what happened right now. And I don't think anyone's jumping to offer Mourinho like a top level team like Chelsea or Madrid or whatever. I think we're going to see a Middle Eastern team or some other team of that nature too.
Yeah, I agree. It's gonna be Saudi. It's gonna be Qatar. Wherever Verratti went, they're gonna pay him 50 mil. But you say that and I think you had to convince me of this too, privately speaking, you and I, that Mourinho was past it. And I would always say, what does that even mean? How can you be past it? Because it was tournament football. It's actually quite simple, his tactics. But then I saw Roma play against Bologna, and I was like, oh no, they did get outclassed because there's that one movement with Freuler. You remember Freuler from Atalanta? He was very good center mid, and he dropped back alongside his center back. It was like the guy who plays next to Calafiori, and then he bursted forward, split two of our midfielders, and then played the through ball that cut past Indica, and then Bologna scored. And I was like, yo, he just got outclassed. That one kind of like shocked me, I think.
But why do you think he got outclassed?
Because I think
because
that
you just said no, it's hard to get outclassed in football. But why do you think he got outclassed?
I think
Was it because he stuck to his guns on the tactics that he always uses, or was it like he says because he didn't have the players to compete at the level that we were supposed to be competing at, and blame it on the players?
I think it because it's a guy from within. It's kind of like the fall of Rome, where you had the one Roman general from the Balkans, and he was from like modern day Serbia, and then they taught him. He knew everything, and then he was a guy on the inside, so he knew exactly what the Romans were doing and their weak points. For me, that was Thiago Motta, a student of Mourinho, knew exactly the way he played because he never changed, and then was able to build upon that tactic of how to draw defenders out, how to split them, and how to manipulate the low block. And for me, I'm like, you did it. Like, you're a maestro of the game. And that's where I realized that it happened. What do you think?
Oh no, I was gonna say because I was looking at what Damir said here. He commented, and it's in the comments. It's or players faked injury because they didn't want to play ugly football, and I think that's not quite. I don't think they faked the injury, but I think we spoke of this before privately. That I mentioned to you that Mourinho's football was kind of demoralizing for the players as well to an extent because with more attack-minded players like Pellegrini, Mourinho's football doesn't suit them. You know, I think Pellegrini has changed not because he has dramatically changed as a player and gotten better in the last couple of games, but because the role and the way he's being played is more. It's a better match with his physical potential and his talents as a footballer than. And I think Zalewski is going to be the same thing because if he gets used in a winger role, which is what he should be used as, that's I think how he
Mhm.
plays for Poland and that's how he has always played. I think he's going to play way better. And I think one of Mourinho's problems was optimizing for the team that we had. And we mentioned this because uh, one of the big things that a manager can do to punch above its weight at the end of the day is to play the players in the positions or roles that suit them. And I think that's something that the Rossi has managed to do. He has come in and he has said, "This is the squad that I have to work with. These are the players, and we need to play the strengths of the players, not just play the tactics that I think are the tactics that should be played, but rather the tactics that fit the players." And I don't think uh, Mourinho was in that same way. He wanted players to adapt to him instead of him trying to adapt to the players that they were. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, you brought up a word that I would have never used in football, but it's actually really accurate. You said optimizing the players, and that's something that is true. It's something that De Rossi is doing differently. And even if Roma had signed a guy like Angelino under Mourinho, he would have looked terrible. But instead, he's a modern wing back. He likes to get up the pitch. He likes to move around, and it makes sense. Players like Christensen maybe even have a bit of a better look. Guys who are more defensive and can provide balance to allow guys like Christensen to get up, to get Angelino like him up. Um, and one thing that I think the West, my mug, my mug is it's a deranged
Oh,
fox.
I didn't get they were talking about the monk. I said, what's that comment about? I didn't know it was a monk. I didn't see it.
It's a really weird fox. I got it at a place called Cracker Barrel. Mo Patrick, you know Cracker Barrel.
No, well, yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's it's like a roadside diner thing. I was on like a fox obsession. I was
your favorite place to get food, probably. Right? Is that a New Jersey hallmark of dining excellence?
it's like an American roadside highway diner. But like I had like a year or two where I was obsessed with foxes, and I saw this mug and I had to get it. Don't ask. Anyway, the
Right.
last. Go ahead.
So go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that I was going to ask you what you think about the striker situation because Azmoun came in and then you have Lukaku, especially going next season, right? What do you think? Because today we saw Azmoun and he wasn't that bad, but he wasn't great either. We sent off Belotti. We have Lukaku and Abraham. I wanted to know what you think going forwards is going to be the and in the next few games as well. It doesn't have to be next season. Could be
If
the next few games.
I think I would like to loan in Azmoun one more season, and I would not sign Lukaku. I would like to see what happens with Abraham. I would like to assess his condition as a manager, see how he's playing, see if he wants to stay. Now he's a striker who's is Abraham 25? I'm going to say he's 25 or 26. He's 26. So at this rate, 26 years old, your goal as a top English striker is to get under the eyes of your national team manager, especially heading into, well, he's not going to make the Euro squad probably, but heading into the next World Cup, right? So I have to imagine that what Tammy's thinking is, I want to get back to England. I want to be, I want to be doing my thing in the Premier League. I want Southgate to be looking at me. So I have to presume that Tammy is going to want to go back to England. I want to see what offers come in. maybe there's, I don't know, a Burnley who offers 60 million, 50 million, whatever it is, because English teams are insane with the amount of money they have. And then I would
That
like
might be
to
optimistic.
the what?
That might be optimistic, but
A
I
little
don't know. I mean,
optimistic. But let's say
because
it's
we have to
35.
see how he does after the injury. I don't know if he's going to manage, but go
I'd
ahead.
want to
Finish.
I'd want to see what else is out there, Patrick. I'd want to see what the other strikers on the short list are and then make a decision
What do
from
you think
there.
of Velotti? Is Velotti gone forever? Or? Because Marco is saying there that he was not given a proper chance. What do you think? Do you think
I think he's probably on the wrong side of 30 at this point. Belotti is, I'm going to say 31. He's 30. Okay, he's only 30 years old, but I think after that ACL tear, I don't really think Belotti has the agility to come back and be a great striker. I think that's probably behind him. I think Roma's best opportunity was Marcos Leonardo, which passed. He's now going to be a €100 million player for Benfica because you know the way that transfer prices rise for those Portuguese clubs. Yeah, I would want to take a look at whatever's else out there. I wouldn't be afraid of like who's the player in Brazil? His name's like John Kennedy or Jackson plays for Chelsea. But there's really, if I look at Brazilian league top scorers right now, I would take a look at these guys. I would take a look at Ivan Toney if you could, because he's slamming in goals in England. He just got back after his gambling issues. Like who else? Not Luis Suarez, obviously not Luis Suarez, but Hulk has 15 goals this season in Brazil, 37 years old. Um,
so?
there
You
was
wouldn't
another.
be opposed to bringing in a 35-year-old to the club, in principle,
No. Nobody over like 26.
because these names that you're. I mean, I was going to say we should be looking at younger players that, because if we have Abraham, he's supposedly going to be the starter. Supposing if we go off the Lukaku not staying with us, I don't know if you like Azmoun as a player. What do you think about Azmoun? Do you think because we got to see him today? So what was your opinion on today's
I'd
performance?
bring him back one more year. I think he deserves a shot to stick around and see what he could do. I don't think he's had like the easiest of times adapting. I don't think the conditions have been good for him, but he deserves another shot at least. I don't know if Leverkusen would be willing to negotiate that type of opportunity to let him go and play again as his contract takes one more year and his value decreases like that. But that would be something interesting. Um,
And
but
what do you think of the right wing, the right back spot of the team? If we play with a back four, because Christensen, I don't think Christensen is the answer for the type of game the Rossi wants to play, or Chelik. I don't know if what do you think of our options there on the right side of the pitch?
I think they got to go look back at the Mercato. They got to reassess at this point and see who's out there. Uh, I think Karsdorp, it's probably his last season at the club. It just seems like he's never really hit like that.
Do you
Heights
think
which we thought
it's
he could.
Villar? Do you think it's Villar benches Rui going forward,
Yeah, I think it's
or do you think
over.
we're gonna?
I think it's
Because I'm
over.
tired. I'm tired of seeing Rui give the ball away. Right, he lets the ball bounce back every time. He doesn't really catch the ball and keeps a hold of the ball, which is something that you saw what happened to Frosinone today when you do that type of thing. You have to get a hold of the ball and keep the ball and not let it bounce to the opposition player. Right, so. I don't know if Esvilar is the answer. I think we were also looking at Meret. At least the press was saying that we could be considering Meret from Napoli. I don't know what you think about the keeper situation.
I like Carnesecchi. He saved 2 penalty kicks today, but you're not going to get him from Atalanta. But no, I think Spillar might be the truth. I think he might be a really good prospect, somebody that Roma could look at for next year too. I mean, if he was on another team, we'd probably be saying, look at this young guy. Well, in this case, Roma do have him, so I think keep giving him the chance. But Patrick, I want to ask you for our last question, then we'll wrap things up here. Who's your man of the match today?
Um, yeah, I think it was more of a collective performance today. Honestly, to me, despite the goals, I mean, I thought Hujsen did a great job for his age and for the way he played, and and the goal he scored, because I think that goal was key, because that goal opened up the game for us and had a big impact on it. I think he's a really talented player. It's a shame Juventus is not gonna sell him to us. I don't think, but probably Hujsen. I liked Lukaku as well. I thought he tried, despite the fact he's trying, but the goals are not coming. I don't know what the deal is. At least not. He himself said in a press conference that he could do more than he was doing in terms of impact and scoring more, and I think he hopefully can get there in the next few games. But yeah, Hujsen, I think for the relevance of the goal and the few interceptions that he had at the start of the game, I think he did a good job. Also, just on that note, very very quickly, what did you think of the situation with the Frosinone fans there? Because that's why he got the yellow, and I think that's why the Rossi took him off, because he didn't want him to get another yellow or anything.
Bro, like he shouldn't even be doing that stuff. The Frosinone fans, like this is such a small club. You don't tease them. They don't have much. This is I don't think that was appropriate, but he has to learn. He's young, he's impressive. He feels like the man of the year after scoring that goal, right? But bro, this is like their stadium is not much better than my high school stadium. Like don't do that to them. They have so little. Those people
To
are
them,
just
it wasn't
lucky.
to the fans. It was an insult that he chose Roma over Frosinone. I mean, that's why they were whistling. Right? And
Yeah, I know,
everyone would
but
have
like
chosen. I think, no disrespect to Frosinone fans, but I think if you could go to Roma to play and go to Frosinone, you're going to end up choosing. It's like saying a player gets offered Milan or Roma, or I mean, right now I'm talking Inter Milan or Roma, and says, I'm going to go play at Inter and not Roma, or being offered a job in the Premier League, for example.
well, I agree with Carl here. Like it shouldn't be a booking, but at the same time, like I wouldn't go in front of the like just be like, that's it, and go back to the touchline, go back to your side of the pitch. But at the same time, that was a really, really nice goal by Hujsen. So he has right to kind of let loose, I think. I think it's a very human emotion that he showed.
And what do you think the impact? Another thing I was reflecting on the game when I was watching was on the impact refereeing has now. I don't know if you've seen a difference there, but I think right now the referees are less antagonistic towards Roma. Maybe it's a perception I have, right? But I think there's been a change there in the way calls are made with respect to our players on our team.
Yeah, I
Post
mean,
Mourinho and now with
we're
the
being
Rossi.
treated like a normal club again. It just seems like it's a non-issue with the referees. It's like, and that does come from you as a manager. If Rossi was an antagonizer instead of like, okay, like, oh, referee, can you give me an explanation? That's different from always criticizing, because it'll never help you to criticize the referee in any sport, in any capacity. But yeah, that's a really good point that you bring up there. And Havalas got one of the last points here with Matthew saying it's good that Roma is getting Smalling back, and I agree. But Patrick, thank you for joining us today. This was super long today, but it was also excellent having you first. Once also just being able to speak to you like this in a footballing capacity again, instead of just us texting back and forth whenever we have time. But yes, no, it's good. I think Patrick will be a regular
Right,
here,
right.
guys.
I
What
don't
do you
know about
think?
that, but we'll see. Thank you, Wayne, again for the invitation. I had a great time, and I hope the people listening had a good time as well. And that's it. I'm happy to have been able to come on today. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, guys. We'll talk soon.